for shirts and I
Let's see.
show up there in the room. It was really inside.
All right, so my name's Randy Rolfe, and welcome to one of our product showcases. This is one of many calls that we have live every week, put together by Nikken independent consultants, not by the company, but we want to share and make available as much information as possible. So this is a product showcase. I'm going to be sharing my experience with the products and then have an illustrious guest, Pam Barnes, join us and tell her stories. And so I will be going through a PowerPoint first just to keep us on track and get our bearings. So just a moment here, let me start that. So this is Nikken, and it's about discovering active wellness. It's not just wellness that you're going to see on your local clinic billboard or something. It's active wellness, where we take part and take control of our own lives and develop a real self-care program based on working with the body rather than trying to manipulate it. Staying healthy, getting healthy, giving the body all it needs to maximize health in every way. And Nikken came up with the idea of living a life in balance, and I'll be talking more about that later. But I discovered Nikken Wellness back in 1997, and I can't believe it's almost 19 years now. And at the time I was a family counselor. I had left private practice of law with a big Philadelphia law firm because I was more interested in preventing problems rather than solving big corporate litigation problems. And so I started with my family and learned so much about parenting and nutrition that I started sharing it in books and counseling and workshops. And one of the key things that I always tried to share with families was that it's the small decisions you make every day that build healthy, happy families, build relationships, build health, and build your attitude. And it's a choice we make actually every minute, what to think, what to say, how to act. And so those are lifestyle choices we make every day, and they do make the difference between being a human's being more, which is the core motto of our company, Nikken, or a human's under stress, being less than our potential. So it's the small choices that add up. Consistent application of good, healthy choices every day. They make a total difference in income, health, relationships, happiness, and success at home and at work. It's a compounding effect, and today things are actually worse than when I started in Nikken because of more toxins in the environment, more stress in people's lives. And stress is a silent killer. It's involved in all the major things that kill us other than accidents: heart disease, cancer, diabetes, stroke, depression, anxiety, all those things that ruin our life's quality as well. Allergies, sleep problems, weight problems, and mood problems. And stress is the biggest killer, and we don't have anything that gets rid of stress except going back to nature. That's why we go to nature when we're on vacation. That's why we try to calm ourselves with meditation and positive thinking and getting out in nature where there's lots of green, fresh air, and so on. Sleep is a major issue today. We're a sleep-deprived nation. We not only don't get enough, we get poor quality. So that combination is literally a killer. Our immune system is suppressed 30 to 60% with one poor night's sleep. And over half of our nation, up to 70%, say they have had sleep issues within the last month. And it's getting worse because we have 24/7 lifestyle. There are a significant number of people in our population who work late shifts, and they have been shown to have increased problems of obesity, cancer, and heart disease, cardiovascular problems. There's no need to talk much about air pollution and water pollution. They are in the news every day, but we tend to get complacent about it, thinking we can't control it when we can. Our indoor air is generally worse than outdoor, because in the 70s, we isolated our houses. We closed them in to save money on air and cooling and heating. And now all the chemicals that come into our house get concentrated, and the positive ions that make it harder to breathe build up. Molds build up, chemicals build up. And 70 million premature deaths are attributed by the World Health Organization just to air pollution. And there are things we can do about that. There was a wonderful article just recently that said that the toxins in the air actually change our hormone balance so that we sleep poorly and we actually gain weight. Imagine that, air causing part of our obesity problem. Water, with Flint, Michigan in the news and other places admitting that they have high lead in their water. We need to filter our water. 260 contaminants in typical tap water, and they've identified thousands and thousands in various tap waters across the country, and bottled water is no better. They remove the things that affect taste, like chlorine and some of the heavy metals, hopefully, but there's still all kinds of toxins in there. But there are ways to get them out, and we'll be talking about that. The people that are suffering worst from our poor lifestyle choices, our bad environment, and the stress are our kids. 1 out of every 5 adolescents was obese last time they counted, and nearly 30% of children under 12 are overweight, and that's increasing. Inadequate consumption of essential nutrients in young people is making cardiovascular disease, cancer, and type 2 diabetes appear earlier and earlier. Less than half of adolescents eat the recommended amount of vegetables or get the recommended amount of sleep. And of course, low-income families are at the worst disadvantage. They're often in food deserts where there's no fresh food available, and they have less access to health care. And of course, they have more stress, anxiety, and depression, and they often live in more toxic environments. And only 27% of high school children actually get the recommended amount of physical activity. And this is all showing up in schools where teachers, I know teachers who have quit because it's just too hard to keep the children's attention and to share with them the kind of learning they need. It's behavior problems, activity problems, and just a lack of interest because the kids are suffering. So this is completely unacceptable in the wealthiest country in the world. So what do we do about that? The answer is humans being healthy by choice, not by chance. Because if you leave it to chance, as these statistics show, it's not so good. We do need to make those daily active choices based on self-care. Nikken enters the picture over 40 years ago, in the mid-70s. And in the mid-70s, I had dropped out of Philadelphia life and bought an old farmhouse in upstate New York. And what we discovered was, because we didn't have a concrete basement, we got the natural energy of the earth straight up into our house. And our visitors kept saying, we don't get tired when we visit you. This is strange. And it was because we were connected with the earth's natural magnetic field. And Nikken was over there in Japan figuring out a way in our modern lifestyles, living indoors in high-rise work buildings and that kind of thing, how to recreate that magnetic field. Nikken's based on the 5 pillars of health: mind, body, family, society, and finances. And you can imagine that if any of those 5 is weak, the others begin to suffer. So many people are struggling with financial stress, and it is the #1 stress. So Nikken chose a business model that would minimize the financial stress. The mind pillar, in law, I know I was working with people that were adversarial, contrarian. It was all about conflict. It wasn't a happy place to be. And then I moved into publishing and counseling, and it was much nicer. And when I got into Nikken, it was even friendlier. People hugged me when the products helped them. The body, of course, if your physical health is failing, your attitude's not so good, you don't have the energy you need to be there for your family or for your work. And of course, if your relationships, you don't have time to enjoy your relationships, your children, your parents, your spouse, everything else suffers. And then feeling like you're contributing in some way to society, doing meaningful work or having time after work to contribute is really important. We all want to be part of something bigger than ourselves, our community, causes we're interested in. So Nikken's philosophy is a brilliant philosophy, and we fell in love with it because we thought we'd given up financial freedom when we dropped out of law practice, but Nikken gave us back that dream, and it's certainly more than a dream today. Nikken soon developed the wellness home. When I joined, the magnetic products were the core product. Then they added food, wonderful food supplements based on organic, natural combination of foods in a physiological range. Then they added water, because when we're fully hydrated, we respond better to everything. Our moods are better. We respond better to Earth's magnetic energy. And then they incorporated the magnetics into a sleep system, so that time of the day when our bodies are restoring themselves, we get into that deep, restorative, restful sleep. And that was the first product that was introduced to me, and it made all the sense in the world. I immediately wanted to make sure my family was sleeping in that good Earth biomagnetic field. Then they most recently added light, full spectrum LED light. So we now have a total wellness home, and we have individual wonderful live calls on the various technologies. So I'll just highlight them here very quickly. Of course, having taught myself nutrition in the 70s and then became certified in applied clinical nutrition in the 80s, I was really excited to look into Nikken's nutrition line. And they have been at the cutting edge ever since they started nutritionals in around 99 or 2000. And they have stayed at the cutting edge. Most of their nutritionals are in 4th generation now. They stay at the cutting edge. They have top researchers around the world who are contributing their research. The osteodens, if you're watching the video, is absolutely amazing, proprietary to Nikken. It's based on the lactoferrin molecule. There's many different versions of that, but this focuses on the version that modulates the function of bones so that the bones do what they're supposed to do as a mineral bank. There are no side effects because it's working with the body just like the lactoferrin does in a newborn's body. We have the finest antioxidant drink on the market. That's the Siaga. There's a picture here, and that not only works as an antioxidant, but that supports the cardiovascular, the immunity, the gastrointestinal, and the anti-stress and anti-aging functions. We have an amazing skin line, which is based on, it's eco-certified, and it's based on organic minerals from the sea that nourish the skin as no other skincare can. And then in the environment, we have, as I mentioned, the light and the air filters in multiple ways, and also produces the beneficial negative ions that are so low in our houses and make breathing easier. They're also calming, and this unit is one of the few on the market that produces no ozone when it produces the negative ions. And then the water system, people absolutely adore that because it does everything to the water that nature does. Filters it through a multiple level carbon filter, then it alkalizes it, mineralizes it, and puts it through a magnet so it's as if it just came out of a mountain spring. And then to the core of Nikken's product line is the magnetic technology. replicating the natural energy that all living things require to align us down to the cellular, even the molecular level, and keep the water moving properly with all the enzymes and all the other complex chemicals in our bodies that need to be in the healthy polarity to function at the optimum. The very first product was the insoles that you may see pictured here, and I've got them in my shoes now. I wouldn't put on a pair of shoes without these because they make the difference. They're like you're walking outdoors for balance, for sense of well-being, and for strength and endurance as well. And the little square is another very popular daytime product. That's the MagFlex it's designed for the lower back, and half of Americans say they have lower back problems from now and then. And then, of course, the sleep system. Everybody can benefit from that. It incorporates the magnetics, and we call it a system because there's a mattress topper, a comforter, and pillows, and they put you in the proper positions. They give you the magnetic energy. The comforter gives you the far infrared energy, which is a warming and alkalizing and balancing energy that we get from the sun and from other living things. And it's all natural material. There's no chemicals. It's still flame retardant. It's absolutely amazing. I've been on one for almost 19 years, and it's now in 4th generation as well. Nikken is always at the cutting edge of the sleep research, and we have major sleep researchers working with us. So now I'm going to invite Pam Barnes to join us. She's a health professional and been involved with Nikken a number of years as well, and has many great stories. So let me get off my sharing. And Pam, you've unmuted yourself. So welcome, Pam Barnes. Thank you for being my guest today. And I want to ask you, how did you first get involved with the Nikken products?
Well, my background in the health field is a dental hygienist. And I've been very, very involved in being proactive in my profession. I didn't just take it as a job. And 2 years into being a dental hygienist, I started having some wrist problems. And so I looked for home remedies because I did not want my wrist to be cut open. So that progressed. I did do the surgeries 8 years later. 2 years later, it started coming back again. So at that point, you really do get on your knees and pray. And because I knew my profession could be over for something that I've wanted to do since I was a child. So as Nikken happens to people, it happened to me. I attended a dental hygiene meeting for continuing ed points, which I love to do. So it wasn't a problem for me to do. And I walked in, and actually a periodontist in town who I'd never worked for, I do now because our philosophies are exactly the same, was sharing about how to reduce stress in your body in dentistry. And the patients, if you all, the ones that aren't into the dental field, which is probably everybody on this call, if you think you're stressed when you go into the dental office, you have no idea what your the hygienist has been through, or that she's running late. And ergonomically, our back, our neck, our shoulders, our wrists, and my feet. I was falling apart, truly, and I was in my early 30s. So I was searching for anything. So I did chiropractic, I did massage therapy, I went to acupuncture, trying to find something because I had had a lot of members of my family who had been on medications most of their lives. And I was afraid I was falling in that same category, and I wanted to do something different, and I didn't want to lose my career. So as I said, as luck would have it, as prayer would have it, I walked into this meeting, and Dr. Hayes was explaining about the technologies, Randy, like you just explained. And I knew, it was actually my 3rd time to hear the word Nikken. And I knew that I was there for a reason and that I needed to start with something. My wrist, of course, if I could get my hand movement back, I would feel better. And my feet were killing me. So I started with a pair of inserts. And this is a far infrared wrist wrap with magnets nestled inside of it. And I still use it today when I do teeth, which is only 2 days a month. Thank goodness for Nikken, because that's my full-time position and my mission. And so I put that on, I put the inserts in my shoes, and in 48 hours, things were changing. enough. I knew that none of the medications they had asked me, none of the physical therapists, and I always use a disclaimer, my son's a physical therapist now because of the Nikken products, and he knows what natural things can do. So none of that had made the changes that had made by my wrist wrap and shoe inserts. So I thought, you know, these headaches might be better. Never thought they'd be gone, because the doctor told me because of the arthritis in my neck that they would never be gone, but that I'd have to learn to live with it better. Okay, that was a real challenge for me. They also wanted to replace my joint in my right thumb at some point. They said I was too young to do that at 32, but that they would be doing that at some point when I didn't need to use my thumb so much. And I just kind of sat there and couldn't believe I was hearing what I was hearing. You know, I plan to use my thumb until I go in the box. But anyway, so listening to all of this and seeing Nikken, it just was a fit. I thought, why not? You know, all of our finances, when we talk about the 5 pillars of health, when I look at that wheel and think about it, my body was a mess, okay, from headaches to back problems to wrist problems to feet problems. Actually, and I was exhausted all the time, totally exhausted. But from my body affected my mind, because when I came home, I'm tired. I faked it all during the day at work and came home and kind of fell apart to my family. So that affected my mind and my family, because I felt like, what good was I? I couldn't carry a tray of food to be a waitress. I couldn't keyboard because of my hands. And what in the world am I going to do? The finances, all of the money that I spent went for my son's childcare or my medical bills. Nothing for the fun and all of that. So that was affected. And all it takes, I volunteered as for PTA, doing all the money and all of that part of it for fundraising. And all it takes is one fall festival at an elementary school with a migraine headache. It was much fun to run to the bathroom to get rid of my upsetness and then come back again and try to help with the kids, that I quit volunteering. So my wheel was totally, it wasn't just off on one side, it had deflated totally. And I looked at that and I thought, well, my goodness, if this did anything, what, you know, I could have a life back again. And so I could turn the key in the door, I could turn the key in the ignition with one hand. That was, I'd always took 2 hands before, so that was wonderful. So you kind of go, wow. Anyway, I thought, why not add a necklace? I was having such good results. I was sleeping better. I wasn't falling asleep at the wheel coming from downtown Louisville out to the county where I lived. And I was doing that quite frequently because I wasn't sleeping well because I hurt so bad. So put on Nikken products, added a necklace. So in 2 weeks, I put the necklace on. I figured, why not? And 2 weeks after that, my headaches were a thing of the past. Now, to live for a decade at least with a solid headache 24/7, and then to go to not having them for 18 years, let me tell you all, there is another way to live. Okay? And water was important to me as a hygienist. Okay, all of it, the stress part that you talked about, that I was under as we all try to manage our careers and our home life and our social life and everything like that, because I wasn't sleeping well. I was not dealing with the stress part quite as well. And the air, I learned through all my education as you got into nutrition, but I learned from a wonderful massage therapist about those, what we would call vapor trails behind the plains, you know, that we have all over Louisville, and actually even out west, I couldn't believe how many are not vapor trails. They're indeed chemtrails. And all of that that's coming down in our air. And we just had a thing in the area where I live now that there's a concrete plant that was emitting horrible things into the air and flying right under the radar. And it's taken a lot of massive effort, but we have now gotten them that they can't do that anymore. So that was good. And they were right, this factory is right across the street from 3 schools, and the 4th one just a mile away. So they're emitting all this hazardous waste into the air, and the people will tell you as you drive into that area, there's a cloud of smog over that area. So, you know, we're going to get that attack. So we need to correct ourselves and use the air cleaner. And water was very important. I was never a soda person. Being in hygiene, that just wasn't part of my life. And so, but I was a big iced tea, unsweet person. And the dehydration that was causing me. And the water has just been phenomenal. And I mean, I'll tell people now, I love helping people on a one-to-one basis. I love in big groups. But, you know, get the water. Start with the water. It helps the entire family. So I got better. We added the sleep system. I put it under my son first. He was diagnosed ADD, inattentive. And when I put the sleep system on his bed, I didn't tell him. He was only 9 years old. And on that Saturday, his teacher called me and said, Pam, what are you doing now? And I said, well, you know, Kathy, you tell me what you see and I'll tell you what I'm doing now. I wasn't going to just volunteer until there had to have been a reason for her call on a Saturday. She was a friend in the neighborhood. And she said, I see a little boy that's raising his hand to answer questions. I see a little boy that looks more awake. I see a little boy that doesn't look out the window. She said, and I do not have to walk by him and tap him on the shoulders and zero him back in on what I'm teaching. And she said, now you tell me. So when I told her, she, of course, was amazed and surprised and said, will you come over and share more with me? And so I always say my friends put me in business because people were noticing that I no longer had a neck collar on. I no longer had a back brace on. When I went to bed at night before Nikken, before the sleep systems, I put frozen pea bags that I had marked in my freezer that said, do not eat. And I put them on my feet because my feet were burning so bad, and I wrapped them with ace bandages, and that's the only way that I could fall asleep. So those went away, all that went away. When I do dental hygiene now, it's nice to have a little bracelet, sports band bracelet, okay? And of course I have a sports band neck band on, some days 2. If I'm doing a lot of periodontal therapy that day, then I usually wear 2 for my neck and shoulders. This wonderful square pad, as you said, I use this every time I'm doing hygiene or even working in the yard pulling weeds at the center of my back. It's a wonderful thing to have a bra on to put that there. Sorry, guys. And then I also wear a round mini at the base of my tailbone and my shoe inserts. And I come home and I'm not tired. I'm not falling asleep at the wheel. I'm ready to still do stuff, fix dinner, and I'm still in a good mood. That's Nikken. Nikken is fabulous. I'm going to grab another person to talk about in this conversation.
Okay, great.
Okay.
That's a wonderful story. Oh, good.
Here we go.
I love pet testimonials.
As you can see, he is no lightweight, okay? This cat now weighs about 17 pounds. But when he came to me about a week later, he got very, very ill. And the vet said, you know, his intestines are messed up. These barn cats are so interbred in each other that, you know, it's not worth the money. Just take him home and let him die in a couple of days. Well, I had his sister, okay? And I wanted them to be raised and stay together. Another cat just wouldn't have worked because his sister was very timid. So he was a limp noodle. His gums were really white, and he was just putty in my hand. So I sat for the first 24 hours, sat by our air machine with him wrapped in a far infrared comforter with the neck band around his neck. Get him off of me. Neck band around his neck. I dripped constantly Mag water, Ciaga, Jade Green in water, down his throat. You know, every 30 minutes he was getting something, okay? I had the Power Mag that hopefully we'll get one soon, that I had beside us too. Didn't run it all the time, but some of the time. And I thought, God put this little creature in my hands to do something with. And then it was, so 24 hours I sat there with him. The next 24, I laid him there. And because he was a little bit, wanted to move and get out of my arms a little bit. And it was after 48 hours, that cat jumped off the couch where he was and hasn't looked back since. okay? And now, as you can see, he's 17 pounds. He's 3 years old. He has quite a personality, and he's a wonderful cat, you know? And I think about that. You know, I could have just let him go, but I use these natural technologies to invest in this animal, and he still is attracted. We have a big yellow lab, and this cat can get that yellow lab off of the pet pad, and he'll lay on it himself. I mean, it's just, that tells you right there. Anywhere you want to start is great. I knew I didn't want to do dental hygiene until I was 80 years old. My aunt actually did practice till 70, and I really didn't even want to do that. But I love the profession still, but not like I love Nikken. If I work more than a couple of days a month, I feel like I'm hog-tied, as we say in Kentucky, hog-tied in a chair, and I can't get out and do what I really want to do. And what I really want to do is get people to think preventative. Don't wait till you're broken like I did. You know, get in there now and build yourself up. You know, look back at your family history. We had a lot of cancer in our family. I needed to do something to change that. And in one more year, I will have changed that for my family members. So, Randy, I appreciate you having me on the call. If anybody has a hygienist or a dentist that would like to know information, I'm very willing to talk to them.
Well, thank you so much, Pam. That's just a wonderful story, and you touched on so many important things. And here you were in your 30s already suffering so much. And we think, well, young people, they won't really notice till they're 50. No, it's starting very young, and you never know until you talk to someone what they may be experiencing. And I love sharing about the animals too, because you know they're not watching videos or listening to any tapes or reading books. They just respond because they need that natural energy, and that is a great story, saving that even when the vets thought it was hopeless. That's really great.
Yeah.
And our cat always wore a necklace, because when we got her, she was very anxious. We wanted an indoor cat, and I thought, well, but we're denying her natural magnetics, so let's just put a neck bracelet around her neck. She calmed right down. She was still very kittenish, but not anxious. So it's miraculous, and we need to share it with as many as possible. So thanks so much, Pam.
You're very welcome.
And
thank you.
Show one more slide to tell people to get started. It's really about just getting started. And like Pam said, it's great to start with the water, because that helps mood, it helps with pain, it helps with everything. So here we go. There we go. Get started. Become a customer. We have wonderful advantages for customers. It's just like any other online, just with whoever sent you here. They're your sponsor, and they'll help you set up your retail page, and then you can get anything you want and get an amazing amount of information, videos about all the products, and so on. And if you fall in love with the products and want to share with your family, we also have regular calls that share how to become a part-time entrepreneur, or like Pam and I, really embrace it as a lifestyle and share with as many people as possible. So start somewhere. That's the point. Self-care, whatever appeals to you right now, just go for it. And thanks again to Pam and to all who are listening, and get with the person who sent you to this Zoom call, and watch some of the other information. It's truly amazing. Thank you again. Take care.
Thank you, Randy and Pam.
Yes, thank you all.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks so much.
Great day.
You too.
Thank you for hanging in there, Randy.
Oh, sure. It's great.
Thank you. Now, will you post this on YouTube, or?
Sure, yes. I'm just trying to stop.
Figure out how to sign out?
Yeah, I'm trying to find how to stop the recording. I guess if I end the meeting, it'll stop. So bye-bye.
Bye-bye.